I get to stay up here with you today. So, good morning. How is everyone doing? Go gentle on me because this is my first time up here. So, we're going to start in Jeremiah 1:5. And that'll be our opening verse today. And it goes, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I consecrated you. And I have appointed you a prophet to the nations." You may be seated. So, my message today is about being chosen. How many of us truly believe that we are actually chosen, that we have a purpose here? You do? You do? It's a thing that we hear a lot, that we're chosen to do something on this earth, that we're chosen here to be here for a purpose. And like I said, we hear it a lot. It's talked about a lot. It's talked about by people that aren't even a Christian, that's not even in a church. Is all about self-worth or about having purpose. And we hear that a lot in the world. And it's even said here in the Bible a lot. But how often do we actually take it to heart? Do we actually truly believe it inside of our own hearts? It says here that before we were even formed in our mother's wombs, that he sanctified and chose us. This is also reiterated in Isaiah 49:1. And let me go to that real quick. It says, "Listen to me, O islands, and pay attention, you peoples from afar. The Lord called me from the womb, from the body of my mother, and he named me. He has made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand he has concealed me. And he has also made me a select arrow. He has hidden me in his quiver. He said to me, you are my servant Israel, in whom I will show my glory." So that was when he called Isaiah. Clearly that's why we're in the book of Isaiah. But he not only calls us by name, he not only calls us from our mother's womb, but he calls us even further back. So we'll go to Ephesians 1:4. And that's a big skip, so give me a second. So Ephesians 1:4 says, "Just as he chose us in him before the foundation of the world, that we would be holy and blameless before him in love." So it's not just before we were born, before he called us by name. It's before he even laid down the foundation of the world that he calls us. And he chooses us. See, before literally everything, you, me, our pastor, Teacher Tom, everyone here and everyone outside of this church, everyone on this earth was made specifically for a purpose. I bring this up to you because though many of us may know that we have a purpose, or some of us may not, and I myself know this, I still struggle to comprehend why me. Why would it be me out of everyone that has skill, everyone that does good? Why would it be me? Or rather, why would it be you? And what am I supposed to be doing? Because I'm called to something, but I don't know specifically what I'm called for. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what I've been chosen for or what I should be doing. And I ask him this every single day. Every day I'm at home. Every day I'm on my way to rehab. Every day I'm doing treatments. I ask him every single day, what am I saved for? As some of you may know, in late October of 2021, I got very sick. I got COVID and developed pneumonia in both of my lungs. At the time, I wasn't really freaked out about it because in 2020, that's when you heard the most about all these cases of people dying. And I know in 2021 there were still cases of people dying, but I thought it would just pass and go like normal disease or like a normal illness. I saw 2 doctors at 2 different facilities and went to an emergency room twice, but they all told me that I was young enough to fight it off and that my immune system would kick in and that I would be okay in a week or 2. It would just pass over. The night after my second emergency room visit, I was hospitalized because my oxygen stats dropped into the low 70s, even lower to the 60s when I was sitting in the room. They couldn't bring me up in the ER room, even on 100% saturation, so they decided that they needed to intubate me. And they told me that I was going to be put to sleep and that they didn't know when I might wake up. I cried on the phone for a long time. I fought with the doctors because I was trying to take my oxygen mask off because I thought I was fine and I thought I could walk out. They had let me call Dylan because that was the only number I could suddenly remember in my unconsciousness. And I had to explain to him that I was going to be in a coma and that I didn't know when or if I was going to wake up. And the doctors went through all of it, and while they were talking to him, I was laying there. I was very much conscious. It's not that I was falling asleep at that moment, but a very warm sensation came over me like a blanket. It wrapped me up and it calmed me. And I knew that whatever was going to happen, regardless of if I was going to wake up or not, or when I was going to wake up or not, that it was going to be okay. And I don't know why I knew this, because at that moment, I had just got done having like a panic attack. I had just got done crying. And I didn't know what was going to happen to me, but it just hit me like a wall. It just, warm wave just came right over me, and I knew it was going to be okay. I could have continued to cry, and I could have continued to panic that entire time that I was awake before they put me to sleep. But instead, I chose to believe that God had me in his hands. I chose to believe that whatever the outcome, that if I completely surrendered to his will and I completely trusted him, that it was going to be okay. And before I went to sleep, instead of doing all that, instead of crying and panicking, I was at peace. I had such an immense peace that I've never felt before. And I'm a really angry person, so peace is hard to find. But it was so strong. It was so calming and so warm, and it settled through me. And when they induced me into my coma, I closed my eyes and then I reopened them. It was that fast. It was like a blink. But I had been asleep for 21 days. And I didn't know that when I woke up in my IC room. I thought it was like 2 seconds. I was like, did they put me to sleep? Because I literally just blinked and that was it. I don't remember a lot about the first days. I was awake. I was conscious, I just wasn't mentally all there. The day that I actually remember being there was December 6th. But I do remember that when I was all there mentally, that I kept trying to tell my mom that he saved me. I couldn't speak at the time, and I was completely paralyzed, so I couldn't sit here and wave my hands and stuff. But I still found a way to mouth to my mom that he saved me and that he rescued me, that he guided the doctors who worked endless on me. There was an entire team of doctors just dedicated to my case, which is kind of terrifying and cool at the same time. I didn't know at the time that the doctors had ran out of options for me twice in the time that I was asleep, and that they had basically given up on me those two other times. I did not know that at all. Nor did I know that around 60% of patients like me who had ARDS, which is acute respiratory distress, and who had pneumonia in both lungs and COVID, did not make it. It was a very high chance of death, and I did not know that. To this day, I still have difficulty looking through my hospital files when I have to submit them to different doctors. And I have difficulty understanding the sheer amount of people that never left that hospital. And I have difficulty grasping why I lived out of all of those people. There were so many people that just would code in the middle of the night while I was awake, and I would just hear it all night long. And I still don't understand why me. What did he save me for? Among the other young people who were in that ICU, and they had quite a few, I was the only one who survived. I was their youngest on the floor the entire time I was there. So why was I chosen, and what was I chosen to do? To answer my own question of why, let's start with who is chosen. So we'll go to Romans 9, and it's verses 24 through 26. And it says, even us, whom he also called, not from among Jews only, but also from among Gentiles. And he says also in Hosea, I will call those who were not my people, and her who was not beloved, beloved. And it shall be that in the place where it was said to them, you are not my people, there shall be called sons of the living God. So essentially that means all of us, regardless of our background, Jew or Gentile or any other background there is, that we are all called to be his people. And 1 Peter 2, 9 through 10 is where he says that we are a royal priesthood. So it's 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9. It says, but you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for God's own possession, so that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who has called you out of the darkness into his marvelous light. And then there's also a verse in John 15:16, but I'm not going to flip to it. It says, we are all chosen even if we don't choose him, because he chooses us regardless of it. So regardless of this, he still opens the door for us. He still allows us to be used for his glory, to bear spiritual fruit, and to do what we're all called for. That can be literally anyone, no matter what we've done and no matter what we can do. And Deuteronomy 7 even adds that we're not chosen because of what we do or how many we are or if we are greater than others. It is simply just because he loves us. And he loves each of us and desires to redeem us in his grace. This one I struggle with the most, because the world has taught us, as it's taught me, that we aren't enough, that nothing that we do is ever enough, that we are horribly lacking, or we're too bad to go back from what we've done. I mean, I've done a lot of wicked things since birth. You can just ask my mom from when I was a little kid. But that doesn't mean that I give up knowing that I can be restored to his grace. I continue to fight this notion every day because it's not my own self-worth that gets me into his good graces. It's not my value. It's not what I've done. It's not what I haven't done. It's not what I can do that gives me this worth and that makes me a candidate of being worthy to be chosen. It's God who has already chosen us, and it is God in whom we find our value and our worth. In fact, it is also God who, even if we don't have these skill sets, will equip us to do what he's called us to do. He'll finish his work in us, as it says in Philippians 1:6, so that we can persevere through his strength. And he's done this with Moses, who couldn't even get out the proper words to call Pharaoh out on letting his people go. He did this with the judges. He did this with the prophets. He did this with his disciples, who were just fishermen. He did this and can do this to everyone that he calls. And he calls everyone. So this is the why, but there is still the what am I chosen for part of this. I kind of answered it in 1 Peter, but we'll go to Micah, and it's in Micah 6:8. And Micah 6:8 says, he has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. So though we may not know the exact specifics of why we are called, we are each called to act justly, to live mercifully, and to walk humbly with God. We are to give up the pride of titles, of what we think gives us worth over others, and what we think others have that is more worthy than ourselves. And we're supposed to be focusing on seeking after God and his righteousness, which is stated in the often quoted Matthew 6:33. Paul also writes a lot about what we are called to do as followers of Christ and how are we to act in his letters. But I'll sum it up with Ephesians 4, and it's chapter 4, verse 1 through 6. All the way into the back. And 4, 1 through 6 says, therefore I, the prisoner of the Lord, implore you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling with which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, showing tolerance for one another in love, being diligent to preserve the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. There is only one body and one Spirit, just as also you were called in one hope of your calling, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. But to each of us grace was given according to the measurement of Christ's gift. So this is the sum of answering all the questions that constantly fill me with anxiety, that may also fill each of us with anxiety if we really dwell on what it means to be chosen and what it means to be called. And it's simply that he chose us because he loves us. He calls us and equips us despite the specifics, to love each other and to seek after him. And that is all we can do, is to continue to pray and seek after him. Now, this is something that I've learned, especially from my grandpa. He was my greatest mentor in this. But I've also learned this from my grandma in her generosity and in her love to our family and to my siblings and my cousins. And I've learned this from my dad and my mom, who've taught me to seek after him always. Because after all, it is our parents who are to model love for us. It is our parents who validates us as children. And I am truly grateful to both my parents for encouraging me to seek after God, especially my mom, who's in the room with me in the hospital as my nurse and my constant cheerleader. I mean, she was literally the only nurse in the room sometimes. My dad also encouraged me from outside of the room, and he was always there at the window, as was many of my other family members. But my mom was a real force to be reckoned with. She pushed me when I didn't want to, and she got me to fight so that I could get better, because otherwise I wouldn't be out of that hospital room as soon as I was. So I want to say thank you to my mom for that. And in light of Mother's Day, I also want to thank all the women in this room who are here, who are gone, who inspire me and have shown me love through my entire life and the time that I've known them, and have brought me encouragement and strength in my battles. And I really do appreciate each one of you individually. I also want to open up the floor before we close to anyone who would like to express appreciation to our loved ones today. So I'll give you guys a moment. You don't have to go all at once. Such enthusiasm. Then we'll dismiss for the rest of the day. Before everyone goes, I do have some gift cards for all the mothers that are present today. You can get them from my mom up here in the front. Sorry? Right there. So we'll pray out. And we'll pray for everyone here. So let's bow our heads. God, I thank you for giving me the strength to be up here, for allowing me to speak through the Holy Spirit and to speak your word today. I ask that you watch over each and every one of us, especially me and my parents who are going to be having a trip today, and we'll be leaving. I ask that you watch our way to Florida and you watch our way back. I also ask that you touch my Uncle Stevie, that you give him the peace and the strength that he's seeking. I ask that you continue to work through him as our pastor and as our shepherd, and that you continue to strengthen this family, this church family that we have, and you continue to be with us in everything that we do. And I ask that we continue to seek after you and to be in your presence today and throughout the week and throughout the days that you give us. In your name, Jesus.